I'll be laughing.
In Pit Lane, proudly brought to you by Online Invent, websites, digital marketing and custom software.
Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane, coming to you on Channel 31 from Grand Prix City Melbourne. Coming up on the program, look, a huge month of motorsport. We've got the Australian Grand Prix at the end of the month. Last weekend we had the Phillip Island Historic. Coming up this weekend, lots and lots of things happening out at Calder Park. If you're a watcher of the Discovery Channel, you've probably heard of the reality program, the Street Outlaws. Well, the Street Outlaws are not just in Australia, they're here in Melbourne and they're running at Calder Park this weekend at Calder Park on Friday and Sunday. And joining us a little bit later on in the program, we've got Disco Dean and Murder Nova. They're going to join us in just a moment. But look, it's been a really big weekend. Well, Doc's with me again as per usual, but we don't have time to chat now because too much has been happening. Let's find out some of it in the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. Well, there's no doubt that Melbourne in March is Motorsport Month, with major events running right through until the Australian Grand Prix at Albert Park. A traditional part of the build-up and a highlight of the year is always the VHRR Historic Festival of Motorsport. After several years affected by the global pandemic, this year's event was a welcome return to form, with some classic Formula One cars from Europe taking to the track. Believe it or not, even the weather was good.
And the visit of several classic international Formula One cars from the 70s and 80s brought a huge crowd to Phillip Island last weekend for the annual VHRR Historic Festival of Motorsport. 6 classic Formula One cars made the journey across from Europe to take on a selection of Australia's quickest open-wheelers, including several of our fastest Formula 5000s. Fastest car of the weekend was the Shadow DN8 of visiting British driver Martin O'Connell. Martin didn't even know that he was going to race at Phillip Island until a last-minute phone call from the car's owner gave him the opportunity to take to the famous circuit for the first time, and he was pretty impressed.
The car is a Shadow DN8, belongs to an English guy at the moment, Jamie Constable. He unfortunately couldn't attend, so he asked me to drive for him. The car it's the only Shadow to win a Grand Prix, 1977, the Austrian Grand Prix. It actually only did 4 Grand Prix. It did and like 2 podiums, 1 win and a 3rd, and then 2 retirements. So it's a very short history in terms of a period history, but obviously very good for Shadow with the victory. So victory and a podium and 2 retirements. So and to be in Phillip Island with it is pretty incredible, really. It's a fabulous circuit. It's nice to come somewhere that's not been made safe. You know, a lot of the European tracks are made safe because of the other races, but here there's some proper corners and well, the view, when you go into turn 2, the view is amazing, so it'd just be nice just to park there for a bit, but it's a fabulous circuit. We've had a brilliant time. Everybody's so friendly, and it's been we've been to many places, and this is definitely one of the nicest places we've ever been.
After several years of severely being affected by the global pandemic, this was a return to form for the Phillip Island Historic Festival, and if this year's event is anything to go by, then one can imagine that next year's event can only be even better. In Pit Lane will have a full 30-minute special on the Phillip Island Historic Festival coming up in April. Follow the In Pit Lane Facebook page to keep up to date on the official release date.
It's a big couple of weeks for the lovers of classic motorsport, as this weekend sees the return of racing to the famous Rob Roy hill climb. The track at Smith's Gully, 50 kilometres northeast of Melbourne, has reopened after an extensive revamp thanks to a state government grant. Really great news, that is. The first meeting this weekend will be their inaugural Rob Roy Revival, a celebration of classic motorsport and life in the 50s and 60s. The event promoters are hoping to create a Goodwood revival feel and are encouraging all spectators and competitors to join in the spirit by dressing in period costume. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Like Goodwood. The revival will feature a classic marquee, and in 2023 it will celebrate Alphen and the incredible legacy of Gary Cooper, the designer, builder and driver of one of Australia's most successful race marques ever. And we've got some really great, exciting news on that too, haven't we, Brett?
We certainly have, yes. So I just found out before we came on air, now in Pit Lane and through the Rob Roy Revival, we have 6 double passes to give away to the Rob Roy Revival this weekend. If you'd like to be in the running for that, just send us an email to theshow@inpitlane.com. That's all lowercase, incidentally. theshow@inpitlane.com. And just in the subject, put Rob Roy tickets, and we'll pick a couple of people at random, and those lucky people will be going out to Rob Roy this weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
I hope we've got time to squeeze in for that, Brett.
Yes, well, speaking of time, it was a controversial time last weekend for the start of the 2023 Supercar season and the new era of Gen 3 racing. Shane Van Gisbergen won both races on the streets of Newcastle. However, his Triple Eight team was disqualified from race 1 due to a technical infringement involving the illegal mounting of a driver cooling system in the car. Triple Eight team manager Mark Dutton claimed that he had verbal permission for the otherwise non-compliant installation, saying that it had been granted by Supercars head of Motorsport Adrian Burgess on the Thursday. Burgess, however, has denied the claim, and as a result the charges were upheld. The other big controversy after the race was criticism by series commentator and former champion Mark Skaife of Van Gisbergen for his refusal to answer questions at the Supercar mandated after-race media conference. Skaife said the drivers had a responsibility to answer media questions and promote the sport. But for many seasoned Supercar journalists, it was very much a case of Mr. Pot, meet Mr. Kettle. Van Gisbergen, in a rare social media post, described Skaife's criticism as a real kick in the teeth, but he also said he wasn't going to pretend it's all roses when it's not, saying that he'd adopted the media strategy for Sunday of, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say it at all. The next round of the championship will of course be on the streets of Albert Park as part of the Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix meeting at the end of March. And Wakefield Park has been sold. The owner of the Pheasant Wood circuit, entrepreneur Steve Shelley, has bought the Goulburn circuit, which has been closed in September due to tight noise limits. Mr. Shelley expressed his commitment to reopening the track and investing in the local community. Previous owners, the Benalla Auto Club Group, still own Winton Motor Raceway, the Australian Autosport Alliance and the Australian Motor Racing Series. The sale of Wakefield Park was facilitated by local Liberal MP Wendy Tuckerman. Isn't that interesting?
And the international scene is about to kick off in full with pre-season testing for the World Endurance Championship, opening at Sebring next weekend. And the opening round of the NHRA Drag Racing Championships, the traditional Gator Nationals in Florida, well, that's going to be fantastic, isn't it, itself? And it's those stories that kick off the return of the In Pit Lane International Wrap.
Toyota Gazoo Racing dominated the FIA World Endurance Championship prologue at Sebring International Raceway last weekend. The number 7 Toyota GR010 of Jose Maria Lopez set the fastest time of the 2-day pre-season test to lead teammate Brendan Hartley. The number 2 Chip Ganassi Racing Cadillac V Series R took third place, followed by the number 50 AF Corsa Ferrari 499P, making its World Championship debut in fourth place. The NHRA season kicked off last weekend with the Gator Nationals at Gainesville, Florida. Mike Salinas won for the first time in Gainesville, racing past Steve Torrens in the final round of Top Fuel. Matt Hagan won Funny Car at the Gator Nationals for the second straight season to beat JR Todd in the final and claim his 44th career victory. Troy Conklin Jr. won his first Gator Nationals Pro Stock title with a 6.637 to defeat Mason McGaha in the final round. And a debut NHRA victory in Pro Stock Motorcycle as Gage Herrera defeated Angie Smith for his first ever major title. In NASCAR news, William Byron won his second consecutive Cup Series race, beating his Hendrick Motorsports teammate Kyle Larson in overtime at Phoenix Raceway on Sunday. Byron's number 24 Chevrolet took advantage of 2 late race cautions, overtaking Ryan Blaney, who finished second, and Tyler Reddick, who finished third. Kevin Harvick, who was trying to win his 10th race at Phoenix, was denied by the yellow flag that came out with 10 laps remaining and finished 5th behind Kyle Larson.
And that's the In-Pit Lane news for this week. When we come back, we'll be joined by our special guest, Shawn Murder Nova Ellington and Disco Dean Karns Jr., plus live music from Senreese. You're watching In-Pit Lane on Channel 31 right across Melbourne and Geelong. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Get the phone ringing for your business with website development and SEO services from Online Invent. Visit onlineinvent.com.au.
Yes, and thank you once again to Online Invent. Roy was out at Phillip Island on the weekend taking some film out there as well, and we'll have some of that in our special on Phillip Island coming up very soon. Just a reminder, if you are watching us live, a reminder of that special offer for the Rob Roy Hill climb. Reece Timms, a member of the In-Pit Lane family, contacted me just before the show and said, hey, do you want to give away some passes? And yes, we've got...
Very generous of him.
Very generous of him.
And he always has been.
He has been. And 6 double passes to the Rob Roy Revival. Going to be a great event. And if you go on Saturday, it means you can still go out to Calder Park on Sunday and Friday.
I'll go back to Rob Roy again.
The best of both worlds. Now, coming up, right now we're going to give you some music for those who are watching at home on the In-Pit Lane YouTube channel and the Facebook page. And our guest tonight is Senreese, and he's on Spotify and his social media. He's everywhere, and you can find out a bit more about that a little bit later on. But right now he's going to play us through the break with his song, P stands for Paddy. Ladies and gentlemen, Senreese.
Don't go sit beside you, love, now or any third time. For you, love, not the little lad, and your heart's longer mine. And your heart's longer mine, my dear, it's longer mine. I don't care what anybody says, your heart's longer mine. And it stands for Patty, it's supposed Jeff, my love, John. W stands for Sweeney, O for Johnny is a Paris man. Johnny is a Paris man, she said, he's a Paris man. And I don't care what anybody says, Johnny is a Paris man.
And that was Senris. Thank you. Senris will be joining us a little bit later on in the program. Thanks a lot for that. We'll catch up with you. We will catch up with you later. He's going to play us out a little bit later on in the program for Channel 31 viewers. If you're watching us at home right now live, we're in this bizarre position at the moment here at RMIT TV Student Television, where we actually have surplus crew. It's never happened before, but they're here. So what we're going to do is
insanely great.
We're actually going to swap a few camera operators around now because the union here is very, very strict. They have implemented the 15-minute workday. I think it's just a little bit excessive, but I mean, they do drive.
They're going into overtime. The more we keep talking, they're in overtime. You know that.
I know that. Well, I'm doing my best so they get paid.
17.5 minutes. If it's in 2.5 increments, they'll get paid overtime. Exactly. No, it's really great to have so much exciting new talent that's joined us with RMI TV this year. It's really, the world has opened up so much. People have come back in their droves, and including back to this university, and we really appreciate all the people that have joined us, not only just behind the scenes here, and also in the control room and all the faculties that they follow, whether it be audio, visual, camera, you know, there's so much. And the technology.
Yes, I think we've covered everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Everything except for, to put up with us two clowns, they do a great job.
So thank you, because of course, as you know, everybody here on In Pit Lane, Channel 31 and RMI TV, all volunteers and all training. So we swapping camera operators, and we'll do that now, and then we'll come straight back to program.
Pass the baton.
They're passing the baton. Well, it's not a baton as such; it's more the headsets. But we will do that now, and then we will. Steve, if you want to take a seat, and we'll bring you back, because otherwise you'll be standing there like a spare cake at a wedding.
Grab a camera if you want as well, then too, Steve. Yeah, you can swap over a camera if you want to, Steve.
Yeah, you can grab a camera by all means if you feel like it.
Exactly.
You wouldn't be the first guest to grab a camera here.
Just for the hell of it.
We had one that stayed with us for almost a year.
There was probably free alcohol involved in that, though.
For free, nothing here, especially if there's any free alcohol, I'm taking it. Okay, are we ready to go? If we're ready, and they are ready to go, okay, when count us down, and we'll head back to Channel 31 and we'll get this show on the road again.
Or on the drag strip, as we say this week.
If you must. Just waiting for instructions. 9, 8, I'm getting them now. 6, Welcome back to In Pit Lane. We're coming up this weekend out at Calder Park. After a break of quite a long time, we've got drag racing back at Calder Park, mostly sort of off-street stuff. But coming up this weekend, we've got the stars of the Discovery Channel's Street Outlaws. And they're involved in something called no prep racing. And let's face it, if you're going to go somewhere for no prep racing, Calder Park's probably a pretty good place to go. To find out about what they're doing this weekend, please welcome to the program, we've got Murder Nova and Disco Dean. G'day guys, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Now, first of all, you've had, for people who haven't seen Street Outlaws, Shawn, we'll start with you. What is it for people who haven't seen it?
Well, it started off as street racing on the streets, and it's evolved into much more. We started doing a series called No Prep Kings after 7 seasons of doing the original Street Outlaw show, which basically people could come and watch us at tracks race on a non-prep surface.
So this is becoming quite big now in the States, isn't it? I mean, what's the advantage? Is it something that's come about because of the financial cost of preparing these tracks? I mean, they're so sticky now as well. I mean, what was the motivation for no prep racing?
Well, I mean, it takes away, the money. You could go out there, and if you're a smart tuner, you know how to tune, you know how to drive to get your car down that surface that is not glued to the world, you got a good chance.
Just, is there any other parameters? Like, I mean, is there a certain amount of distance you guys race over, or do you change it up or down sometimes? Is there certain restrictions on the cars that you can't race? You can't just have a fully blown something that's going to do 500 mile an hour against something that's probably just a short track special or something like that.
I do that. I mean, that's what I bring to the dogfight. That's the kind of car I bring.
There's certain class requirements, a weight, stuff like that. But other than that, no, there's not a whole lot.
Yeah. So Dean, tell us about the car that you're driving this weekend out at Calder. It's a pretty spectacular looking thing. I mean, for the colour, if for no other reason. Tell us about the car.
Yeah, it's a 66 Chevelle, and it has a Brad Anderson Hemi with a C-rotor screw blower. It makes normally around 36 to 3,500 horsepower, and we're racing on a 10-inch wide tire. So on a surface that has no preparation whatsoever, it resembles a street, and then we take 3,000 horsepower and manhandle it down there an 1/8 mile.
So is there any, with your cars, is there any sort of traction control or anything involved in that?
Some people run it. He runs it. A lot of people run it. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, we run fuel tech on our cars, state-of-the-art stuff where, it's not as easy as what some people make it out. You can't just turn it on and it does everything for you. You got to have really close tune-ups, and you got to have a lot of good data first.
Well, that gives me a good lead into what I was about to ask you. You're coming from America to Australia, everything's just a little bit different. You've got 4 different tracks over here you've never been on before. I'm sure you get to do a little bit of sussing out and go and look at the track yourself, but what are some of the major differences between the tracks so far from here in Australia that you've noticed?
They've been pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The tracks are, even though they're not what the Australian racers are used to, they're not as sticky as what Australian racers are used to, they're a lot stickier than what we're used to. So, we got a chance to check out Calder Park earlier today, and I can tell you,
we're going back in time.
We're definitely going to be
taking a step back in time.
It's going to be no prep, and it's going to be pretty.
Sounds like right up your alley.
Definitely.
So as we said, it's sort of we know that the words reality and television are sort of mutually exclusive normally. I mean, in terms of doing the actual show, I mean, how much of it is a show? How much of it is the race? Is there any involvement in terms of hey guys, can you run that again, or can you do it, or is it just
how edited are you? Yeah.
No.
How real is this reality?
The racing, you can't stage that. The racing's as real as it gets. It always has been since day one. The racing is real, but we put on a show for the fans.
The emotions are real at the end of it when you score a win as well.
It's got to be. Yeah. It's got to be. No.
You can't fake the high fives and the hugging and all that sort of stuff as well.
And no racer's going to go out there and lose on purpose.
No, absolutely
it's not going to happen.
Hurts the pride.
Oh, yeah. So what have you seen so far in terms of, you raced at Willowbank, you raced up in Queensland, you raced at Sydney as well. The cars that you've seen there, I mean, what's impressed you with the cars and the things that you'll go and talk about when you get back home?
I mean, I think it's probably the lack of quit that all these Australians have. We come over here and this is something that we do. We do 1/8 mile racing. We go off of an instant green. That's stuff they're not used to, So to put it bluntly, they've taken kind of a beating. We're good at this. And they're a little bit behind us. They got a little bit of work to do, but they've got no quit in them, and they just keep on racing.
On that note then, what's the chances of maybe inviting a couple of those over here over to your to show and say, bring them over and bring it on.
I welcome them. There's a lot of Australian racers. I've met a few, at races in America, and when they come over and race with us, they got it together.
Yeah.
But the one thing they do have, all of the race cars are like a show car here. They're so beautiful. The inside firewall, the attention to detail on their race cars is bar none compared to what we have in the States.
Which leads me to a very important question.
Which leads me to saying that we've got to take a break, so we'll hold it up there for the moment, because we're going to take a break here on Channel 31. When we come back, we'll have more from our guests, Shawn and Dean from Street Outlaws, and also more music from Senris. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Okay, for those of you watching us on channels on the YouTube channel and also on Facebook, we can talk a bit more about. Let's talk about the off track activities, the extracurricular activities. Is it your first visit to Australia,
yes.
for both of you?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what have you found? What surprised you, if anything?
I mean, just so much stuff is different. As far as the first things, obviously, you guys drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
So there's no way we're going to allow. That's right.
We concur. You drive on the wrong side of the road.
So there's no way that they're going to allow us to drive over here, because we would for sure.
Yeah, we'd mess
We
that
all
up
used
for
to only
sure.
just one lane anyway.
Yeah. So it's things like that. The food is something that we're fat Americans, and we like our sweets.
We're spoiled over there.
I love America. It's about the only place I can go to, and they say, "But you're looking slim."
Exactly. Betty's Burgers down Chapel Street does authentic American food, and everyone dies for it, but they feel like having a heart attack over here afterwards.
And that's what we're looking for. That's exactly what we're looking for.
I did see something on your social media in terms of, now please explain to humble, whenever we talk to Americans and talk about food, we of course get the Vegemite question.
Yes.
About Vegemite. So I'm going to turn it on you guys.
Yeah.
Dr. Pepper.
I love it.
What?
High fives. Absolutely. Won't leave each other hanging. Definitely. I'm a Dr. Pepper fan.
Oh my God!
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the sweetest.
No, it's just
it's like pure corn syrup.
Yeah, I love it. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
And that is one of the things that
should have got to bring a case or
you
two
do have a
over
lot
for
of
me.
corn syrup in your food, which is
Can't get it.
I've heard people over saying, "Oh my God, your Calder is just so." It's
flat.
Because you've got
flat is what Americans call your stuff over here. It is. I've had a couple. Some fans have actually brought me cases of Diet Dr. Pepper since we've been here, and obviously you guys do not make it over here. It's kind of a Texas thing. So even in America, if you go too far north, you can't find it. So it has to travel over here, and it's like somebody shook it up the whole time. It's honestly, I've been drinking Pepsi Max since I've been here.
They've beaten the bees there, but by the time it gets there's no bubbles.
That's right.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Well, when people go this weekend out at Calder Park, what are they going to see?
And they're going to see some awesome racing. They're going to see. They're going to be able to stand behind their local Aussie racers. And see something new that we're trying to bring over here. Like after we leave, they're not going to quit this. They're going to get better at it.
So I've also seen a bit of money bandied around. It's like you don't say let's just go down there. We're not playing for cars like pink slips or anything like that. But let's just say that I'll bet you $1,000. No, I'll raise you. Except it's almost like a card game. So there's a bit of banter in it, isn't there?
No doubt. Like racing and gambling go hand in hand. It always has. Always will.
Lots of negotiations.
So what's the average amount of dollars you have to put into a car to get it up to spec to obviously give us Aussies a whoop-assing? So how much you guys spend upkeep on these sorts of cars, and what are they worth?
Like overall value of the car?
Yeah, just an average value between all yours, like
$250,000 US.
250 is your average value, Shawn, as well too.
Yep.
I wouldn't sell my car for nothing. But you could build it for $200.
Yep. Okay.
I've got to ask you all.
US dollars. $200.
About the names of your cars. Where did Murder Nova come from? Obviously it's a Nova, but
about 17 years ago when I got this car, and I brought my original car over here. So I've had this since day one that we've been filming. I took everything that was chrome, everything that was polished, everything that was pretty, and I just blacked it out. It was part of our street racing. At night I didn't want anybody to see the car.
Yep.
And one of my buddies walked up to me and he kind of looked at it and he went, "Wow." you really murdered everything else. And it just kind of stuck, So and it's been that ever since.
And I'm almost worried to your car.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Stinky Pinky.
Stinky Pinky.
Yes.
Stinky Pinky is
okay.
This is a PG show.
That's PG, right?
You're walking on eggshells there, Brett.
Should I ask the question of where that comes from?
No, you might not want to ask that one.
Does it involve any bacon or
No.
hogs over there?
Well, I mean, it could have been a hog. I mean,
Turns out they don't
I think that was a really good time to go back to Channel 31. I think. Okay, let's go back to Channel 31, and we'll wrap this beast up. Okay, so when they're ready in there, give us a countdown, and we'll do the final segment.
Some good bonus material then.
Okay,
Silence is deafening.
silence is deafening. Well,
Just waiting on the countdown.
we're waiting on the countdown, people.
So it's
They're just working out timing at the moment to see how much we've
how
got.
much has
Okay, here we go. We got the. Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, our guests this week are the driver of Murder Nova. We've got Shawn and we've got Disco Dean. They're going to be out at Calder Park on Friday and Sunday, because on Saturday I believe there are monster trucks out at Calder Park. Yeah. It's sort of like it's like an American pop culture phenomena. This.
hopefully they don't drive over your Griggs.
Yeah.
I want to try to get to drive one of those while we're there. Is what I want to try to get. See if we can find a seat.
Speaking of a little bit of carnage, heard there was a little bit of a glitch over in Perth a couple of weeks ago as well too. How's Mr. Robbins' little $500,000 shipping container?
It was upside down when they found it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I mean, anytime we're taking all these cars across country and you have to work out the logistics of getting the car from track to track and from the United States to Australia is a big job. I guess there was a driving accident. I don't know exactly what happened, but when they opened the container, everything was turned upside down.
The car's okay?
His world was literally turned upside down.
I mean, the car's okay after 2-3 days worth of them, thrashing on it. They got it. It doesn't look pretty, but it's still really fast.
Okay, good. Yep, doesn't affect the aerodynamics at all.
Yeah.
It still flies.
Well, good luck for this weekend. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a big crowd out at Calder Park. Incidentally, while we're doing that, we need our singer back in position, because Cendris is going to take us out in just a moment. But guys, people, if they still want tickets, still available coming up this weekend.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tickets available. You can get them at the gates. So,
Well, we look forward to seeing it, and people, of course, can watch the Street Outlaws series. How many series have you done now? It's a lot, isn't it?
He's an OG. He's been since day one.
I've been doing it for 10, 11 years. There's 17 seasons of the original Street Outlaws, and we're going into the 6th season of the MPK. Lots of spinoffs.
Hopefully see another 10 more years at least out of you, please, Shawn.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for joining us on In Pit Lane. Good luck on the weekend,
Thank you.
and we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And now, next week on the program, coming up at the Australian Grand Prix at Albert Park, of course, the first appearance in Australia of FIA Formula 2 and Formula 3. One of the contestants in Formula 3, a good friend of ours here on the program over many years, Hugh Barter, will be making his Formula 3 Australian debut in a couple of weeks' time. He's going to be our guest next week here on In Pit Lane. Now, to take us out tonight is Cendris, and he's on. If you're looking for upcoming gigs, he's got coming. There's his socials. There, he's on Facebook, Instagram. You can listen to his music on Bandcamp, Spotify, and he's got his own official YouTube channel, Cendris Official YouTube as well. There also, there's the albums, and he's going to play us out with one of the songs from one of those albums, Warm the Winter, in just a moment. Also, thank you to our mate Christian Smith for all of the photos from Phillip Island that have been on our backdrop tonight. We'll see you next week with our special guest Hugh Barter, but to take us out right now, this is Cendris and Warm the Winters. Good night.
have fun. All the more I want to shelter you from all your fears. All the more I want to be the one that you hold near, to shelter you from fear, support what you hold dear, to warm the winters in your heart, to be your love. All the more I want to be by you through the years. All the more I want to be the one that you hold dear. All the more I want to take your hands and run away. All the more I want my name to be what your lips say, to shelter you from fear, support what you hold dear, to be the one that you call on, to be your love. All the more I want to read inside fragile minds. All the more I want to be the prize you hope to find. All the more I want to be in your thoughts and dreams. All the more I want to be the glue that holds the seams, shelter you from fear, support what you hold dear, be the one that you call on, to be your love. All the more I want to break the walls around your mind. All the more I want to lay to rest at your side. All the more I want